Welcome everybody. Good evening everyone. Welcome back to TCR Trinity Competitive Racing.
Well, TCR TJ is the Season 13 Golden Class Champion for Trinity Competitive Racing.
Oh, let's go, dude! Yes!
Jabbar on the podium! He's on it by a 10! Gentlemen, side by side through one. And Silent, and Siegrist gets a half spin.
Let's fucking go!
Wheel bumping.
DRS enable, let's do it.
And Captain Blade battling it out for position. Captain Blade.
Ickle, what the?
Then McChicken goes around and he also makes
rewind down the front straight. Oh my god.
I gotta check the heart rate.
Why do we do this? Because of nights like this.
Welcome everybody to TCR Trinity Competitive Racing, and welcome to episode number 32 of the Racing Debrief, TCR's podcast, where we combine the world of e-racing, sim racing, and TCR with real-life motorsports and Formula One, a true racing enthusiast listen. I'm your host, Siegrist. I'm joined alongside my co-host of Camden Luca, who is a Golden Class driver and your Platinum Class main commentator, and we have some guests here tonight. We are joined by multi-Platinum Class winner and Platinum Class driver of Silent, and also runner-up of last season, also long-time TCR veteran and multi-Platinum Class winner of Professional, who is a pretty familiar face. We haven't had him on in quite a while, but some familiar faces here, and we have some interesting topics here and a lot of fun, so we have a lot of stuff to get to. We're on recording this August 28th, 2023, and we're gonna get right into it. So welcome everybody to the podcast here.
Yeah, welcome Silent and Professional. This is going to be a little different of an episode. You know, we have some of our typical Formula One topics, but soon you'll be hearing about the coconut ice cream bet, which is probably something we have never talked about here on the podcast.
That's really not what I'm most excited for.
Was this not? I thought this was on the podcast, or this was offline. Was it not?
We haven't seen the results of the bet, though. You're about to tell us how this ice cream is.
Yeah, but did we make the bet on the podcast?
Yeah, we did, but this is the first time we've had it, though.
Oh, okay. Yeah, alright. I was like, oh, that'd be, like, pretty weird if we just put this on the podcast and we didn't even have the bet on the podcast, but, alright, yeah, I'm making sure I'm not going crazy. Yeah, so what was the bet? Go ahead, Camden. Tune us in. What was the bet?
So, basically, last week we made a bet to where if I finished in the top 7 in the Golden Class race at the Netherlands, then Siegrist would have to try coconut ice cream. Now, the reason why we settled on that is because that is one of my favorite flavors of ice cream, and Siegrist kind of scoffed at that. And the reason why we said top 7 is because the week prior to the Golden Class race, I actually had a dream that I finished in P7. And, well, I ended up finishing in 7th place exactly in the Golden Class race. So that's why we're here.
Yeah, well, it wasn't one of your favorite. You said this was your favorite, so this is, and I disagree. So
I don't know if I said that, but
well, it's all recorded now.
Right.
And I said I would try it, so I went to I don't know if other people are familiar with the ice cream store of Carvel. Some people have it, some people don't. So I went to my local Carvel, and I got a small, not even a small, I got I got a kid's cup of coconut ice cream, because I didn't want to pay that much for coconut ice cream. Secondly, I wanted to make sure I only had a little bit in case I didn't like it. And number 3, I got a strawberry shake to go along with it for later on, because I didn't want to just go for coconut ice cream, you know. But I have the cup here, and it's not the box one that Silent told me to get. the Mexico coconut on the popsicle stick. I don't know what it's called. But I was going to do that, but I decided on the cup from Carvel. So here it is, a little ASMR testing from Siegrist here. I'm going to open up the cover.
Here we go. Let's see.
Oh God.
Oh, it's hard to get off. I can't even get it off.
Pause.
5 minutes later.
So that's the plastic of the cover. I got a nice plastic spoon. Alright, let's see what this is all about.
It's changed his life for sure, you know. It's the best ice cream ever now that he's ever tried.
For real.
They're silent. That means it's so good. He's taking a second scoop. Come on, let's go.
Wait, this is the second scoop. This isn't coconut though.
Well, it says coconut on the outside though, I'm sure, right?
Yeah. No, this is
like, oh yeah, it's really, really good.
This is
his new favorite ice cream. Everybody. Siegrist's favorite ice cream, coconut. Who knew?
What's next? What's next? Hawaiian pizza? Hawaiian pizza?
Yeah. Hawaiian pizza. Well, you know, you get your Canadian bacon, your pepperoni, your pineapple. Fantastic. There you go.
I will say,
he's a converted man now.
It tastes more like a vanilla.
It does.
See? Alright.
But it's like a little, I don't know how to say it, but it's just like airy coconut flavor.
It's like an airy, creamy. I could get behind this, Camden. Alright.
You're welcome.
You're not entirely crazy. This is pretty good, not gonna lie. And you know what?
Partway crazy.
You know what? I've been using every time before like a league race or something, or just generally, I always chapstick up on my lips, you know, because you can't go through a whole race with chapped lips, right? You have to have a little movement there, get through the corners. So I use coconut chapstick, Burt's Bees, recently. Now I switch it up, but I have coconut chapstick. And you know, sometimes you taste the chapstick when you put it on, and that kind of is like coconut. Like, you know, it's coconut. It smells like coconut. I realize there's no smell to an ice cream. You know that? Because I'm not getting any coconut smell here.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to go out and buy like a tub of ice cream now to, you know, prove your point.
That's what.
$5 more. Yeah, sounds like it. Yeah.
Alright, well, I'm gonna finish eating this. I got a kid's cup. I wish I got a small now. It's actually pretty good. So that was based off of Camden finishing 7th. So I will say that is really good.
I think me and Shabar helped propel this a little bit, but maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna do it. I mean, a bet is a bet. You know, I'm a man of my word, right? Yeah. But I also so came to finish 7th in that race, but I wanted to also shout out, which I was talking shit before the race to in the Golden Class chat. I said 4.5 safety cars over or under. And I said 4.5 safety cars over under that was caused by Siegrist. And he went out there and won the race. His first Golden Class race, goddammit. So he shut me up. Camden finished 7th, so I had to get the coconut ice cream. So it was just a bad day in Siegrist's world. But I do want to say, Siegrist had a really nice race, and it was his first Golden Class win. And he's been in Golden Class for a few seasons, so he's finally got that win. And yeah, well deserved. He managed the race quite well, and you know, that's what you do. You just shut your haters up and go out there and win.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's shown just how competitive this class has become ever since KD got moved up to the Platinum class. You know, you have Remsley, who's won a race, Siegrist, who's won a race. JMB hasn't quite won a race, but he's been up there and has been competitive after being in the Silver class literally just last season. So it's anybody's game at this point, and we'll see who ends up taking the points lead, because technically it's still KD, but that'll probably change after this week.
Yeah, it's been nice seeing when Katie moved up. It kind of opened the championship a little bit, and the Siegrist win brings him right back into it. Or not that he was out, but it really puts him in more of the conversation, and it's really open to a whole bunch of drivers. So the next 5 races or so, this next little stint will really determine who's going to be your favorite. So, I've been interested. It's a nice championship now that Katie got moved up, but he was supposed to be in platinum. He's quite good there. Another thing I wanted to say for the silver class, just briefly. Because, like I said, we review these rounds, but we're not going in detail of every little thing because, these get uploaded on Tuesday morning. So by then, a lot of the minute details are already forgotten, and so we cover the main stuff. But I want to shout out the silver class driver winner, Pilot, who got his first TCR win, also in silver, obviously. But it was also, I found out that it was his first TCR win, or first league race win, ever. So it was kind of cool, and that's kind of why I love commentating the silver class and why I like it so much, because you get a lot of new drivers into the class, and this was his first league race win, and we're connected to him for the rest of his league. I don't know how much longer he's going to do league racing. Some people do it for a few seasons, some people do it like us, and we're here talking about it for all these years, but for you only get one shot at a first win, and it's cool that we were a part of, Pilot's first win in league racing. So, for him, it's just starting. How much more, he'll do in the future is unknown, but it's kind of cool to see where we are, because all of us in the party been league racing for years, versus someone who's just kind of starting out, and they have so much more to go. So I thought that was pretty cool. It was good for Pilot to win that race, and hopefully one of many more. But yeah, that's probably it on the silver and golden class, unless you guys had anything from last week.
Yeah, I mean, it's just surprising that was his first ever win in league racing, considering how fast he was in his time trial laps and how fast he was to start off the season. He kind of had some bad luck at Qatar, and he really hasn't been able to get the good finishes, but Pilot's going to be a contender. I don't know if he's going to catch Zionicle, considering Zionicle has double the amount of points as literally anybody else in the class, but yeah, he'll probably win a couple more races before the season's over.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think he had some bad luck to start the season, and I think he's gonna be able to put some good races together. So we'll see if you get back into the mix. Zionicle kind of had somewhat of an off week, even though he still finished third. So we'll see if he gets off the podium at any point, but he's been very consistent. Alright, so that's going to do it for silver and golden. We'll move on to a little bit of the Dutch Grand Prix, F1, and you lined it up on the schedule, Camden, that we were going to be racing Netherlands, same as F1, and yeah, it was a pretty good race, I thought.
Yeah, it's one of the few tracks, unfortunately, that I was able to kind of align with the TCR schedule, so just enjoy it, this is not going to happen often, but yeah, I mean, it started off crazy, starting on the slick tires and the rainy conditions. Everybody kind of pitted in the first couple of laps, and of course, Max Verstappen won the race, made history, won 9 races in a row. Yeah, honestly, I mean, I watched the beginning of it, and then after, all the pit cycles went through and Max got to the lead, I'll be honest, I kind of turned it off because I knew he was going to win at that point, but I did watch some of the highlights back, and it seemed like a really good race.
How about you guys, professional side? You guys watched it or live? Or
I didn't watch it live. I always watch the replay because I'm getting a little bit old now that I don't actually get up at 7 a.m. anymore to watch the race live. But I watched back the replay, and I stayed up the whole thing. I really enjoy the midfield, kind of upper midfield battles now, because we all know that Max is going to win. for the most part, just kind of like the Schumacher days or the Hamilton days from 14, 15, 16. But I thought it was really interesting because I thought personally, and I'm sure you guys will disagree, I thought Hamilton had a really good race, and I thought his pace was really good. I thought Perez was just typical Sergio, just good start, but fell off the pace and just really couldn't do anything, and then got swallowed up by his rivals. I thought Ferrari is just completely lost. I mean, they're just abysmal. I mean, I don't know what happened to the race pace. Sainz was kind of up there, but even after about halfway through, he just kind of fell off, and he was able to keep, I think it was Hamilton behind, but their pace was just not up there. Albon and Sargent, before he crashed out, or even if he did crash out, I can't remember, but Williams are actually coming up through the field, and it's really cool to see them mixing it up with the rest of the midfield and having this just multi-car battle. Zandvoort, as his nature, is super hard to overtake on, so you're going to have naturally close racing regardless. With the weather as well, I just thought it was a really good 8 out of 10 race overall. I kind of wish they didn't red flag at the very end. I get the conditions were quite horrendous.
Yeah.
But if people put on the wet tires and kind of tiptoed around, you could have seen maybe some positions change, and the drivers really coming into their element of why they're the best in the world. But I get the safety concerns, and with all the things that happened in the past, why it was a good call to red flag it. Too many people were on the intermediates at that time. Overall, I thought a really good race, and should set up the stage for the second half of the season to be quite exciting, and especially for Aston, Ferrari, and Mercedes, and McLaren, if they keep their stuff together, just to kind of duke it out for P2, and then obviously Perez trying to hopefully, well, not hopefully, but I mean, for him to maintain his P2 in the drivers, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think Hamilton or Alonso is going to take his P2 from him by the end of the season. That's all for me.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. How about you, Silent? You watched it?
I tried to tune into it, but I ended up having to rewatch it.
Yeah, he was asleep during the whole part of that.
Yeah,
he fell asleep just like Camden did, or something.
Yeah, maybe I need to rewatch it a little bit more. But from the small stuff I did manage to pick up, it felt like Aston Martin once again kind of falling flat on the strategy department. They're just not getting on top of it with Fernando when they could have had a chance to at least lead a couple of laps. They didn't. I think the McLaren's a bit of a shocker from them, honestly. A day with a lot of mixed conditions, and usually a car with so much downforce piled on it should perform pretty well, wouldn't you think, normally? And then I think I would do it professional, honestly, as far as Lewis goes. Very underrated race. I think he finished, P6 from what? Where did he start?
15th? 16th?
Yeah.
15th, I think?
Maybe there could have been an extra couple positions, but overall, I think he did alright for where he started. So, but yeah, not much more to say.
Or 16th, I guess, right? Didn't he?
Yeah, he made it out of Q1, I think.
He did. Yeah, that's what I thought too. Yeah, I did. I actually missed the start because, to be honest, I just forgot that we were racing this week. We had so many off weeks, and I woke up and I was like, oh, I feel like there's something on. I was like, oh, let me see. Oh, they're racing, and I missed it. And I think I joined in quite late, actually. It was when Sargent crashed out. I think there was a safety car after that. So I did miss a lot of the good action beforehand with the rain and whatnot. But I watched from there on up to the end. And from, lap 18 to the rest of the race seemed... At least the middle portion looked like a regular race that we've been kind of having this season, with Max out in front and the midfield battles just going through, and up until the end with the rain was interesting. I thought Alonso, once the safety car came out, I thought he had a nice pace there. It was interesting they did a safety car restart and not a grid start. I guess because of the weather they did a safety car, which makes sense, but I wish and hope they continue to do that for future races as well, to make sure they're consistent with it. I did see a few stats on Twitter after the race that said that this race had the most overtakes in any Formula One race. It beat the 2016 record from China, which I think was like 163, and this one had 187, I believe. And I think there were 63 or 60 something, I think it was 63 overtakes on lap 3 alone, and that's when the rain started happening. So obviously a lot of the rain had to do with the overtaking, but for a track that, you know, we really don't think as of a lot of overtaking that can happen, this set the record of the most overtakes in a Grand Prix. So yes, the weather had a lot to do with it, but yeah, maybe the cars or the field is a lot closer, and you know, a lot of moves mainly happen down in turn 1 or the other DRS straight, but it was cool to not have it everybody in line basically. And there was another stat I think I saw that Fernando Alonso now holds the record for the longest period of time between their first podium and what would be their last podium. Now, not saying that would be his last podium, but he, I guess, broke the previous record. So if he gets another podium, he would just extend that, I guess, day streak or year streak from his first podium in F1 to the last podium of their career. So it'd be interesting to see what race win stat, who has the longest gap between their first win and their last win. I don't know who that would be, but maybe that we could look into that. That'd be, I couldn't even imagine who that would be.
Do you know whose record he beat for the podium record?
No, I didn't see it on there, but I'm assuming it has to be like
Kimi?
It's got to be Kimi Räikkönen. It's got to be, because he had the longest, like some of the most race starts until Alonso, I think, eclipsed him last season. It's got to be Kimi.
Yeah, I would say so too. I mean, there's not many more people who've driven that long.
Maybe Schumacher?
That's what I was
thinking. Because he did get
too.
one in his final season.
Yeah, but I don't.
Yeah, that could be. Well, but like 90.
Because Kimi didn't get
94
some when he was at Alfa Romeo. He didn't get any, so.
20.
No, okay, so it has to be Schumi then.
Well, yeah, it's 20 years, and Raikkonen was what, 02 to 23, 22? 21? No. 21, yeah.
Yeah, 21.
Yeah, it's either Schumi, Raikkonen, yeah, or Raikkonen.
Interesting.
Could be a good stat to find out.
Yeah. Well, Kimi didn't win in 21.
Yeah, but he got
one in 2020.
Or no, 2018 he got his last podium.
Yeah.
Okay, no, so it would be Schumacher.
It would be Schumacher, yeah, because he did 93 to 2013. That's 20 years.
No, 2012.
Or 94 to 2012. Yeah, that's 18 years.
So it's probably his. I mean, I don't think anyone else had that long of a career. Unless they had a big gap and came back, but I don't know. They didn't say, but that was another record that I saw. And then obviously the biggest record was Max tying Sebastian Vettel's record of 9 straight, which we predicted, Camden, last week that he would do. So
that's right. Yeah,
he did do that. Now, does he get 10?
So they're in Monza next race. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can see it happening, but that track tends to be kind of a shit show at times. So, I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't happen. But just knowing how clean Max has been, like his worst finish this season, second. So, I think he'll get it probably.
I was also thinking Monza could be one of those crazy ones too, but Red Bull is really strong on the straight, but I don't know. I mean, it's hard to win now 10 in a row, but I think if it's any crazy weather, I think it could shake things up. If it stays dry, I don't think anyone can beat Max of race pace at Monza. I think he'll get a nice gap there, and I don't think any of, like, Aston Martin isn't great on the straight. Ferrari isn't too well. Like McLaren and Mercedes possibly. I was thinking McLaren could be really strong, because remember they did Ricciardo won when he was there, and they were quite good at Monza, so I was thinking maybe them. Hell, even Williams. I don't know. It could be really, but I don't think they're going to be really able to compete if it stays dry the entirety. I think Max should get it, and Perez, I don't know where Perez is going to do.
I agree, and I think that's part of the reason, though, why Max, out of anybody really in Formula 1 history, has the easiest path to this 10 wins in a row, because if you go back to what Schumacher did in 2004, and even Sebastian Vettel in 2013, they had better teammates, I would say, than what Perez has been doing this year. And even the competition from Red Bull down to, like you said, Mercedes and McLaren, it's really not even close. Max definitely has quite the advantage. So the only way I see him not winning is if he DNFs. If he doesn't DNF, then he's going to win the race.
Yeah, I'd agree. And Perez, yeah, he is struggling a lot. I mean, there was 6 teams in the qualifying in the top 6, which is crazy to have 6 different teams. And Perez got beat by all of them, including his teammate. So, I mean, I think it's really embarrassing. But I think his time kind of got saved a little bit, because Daniel Ricciardo is out for now because of his broken or fractured wrist or hand, or I don't know exactly what it is. He'll be out for a few races. I think who replaced him? Liam Lawson? I don't really know the name.
Yeah,
that's the name. And I think he did really well. He beat Tsunoda. He finished 13th, I think, so almost in the points for his first race on very short notice. It was from FP2 onwards that he got the call and he was in. So I thought he had a good race, and I feel like, what does this mean for Ricciardo? Do you think he'll get back in time for the end of the season? Because a broken wrist or fracture in your hand, you need a lot of grip strength. For F1, does he get back? Is that kind of halting him? If he doesn't get back this season, does he get a contract next season, or is Lawson, if he continues to do these performances, I know that was his first one, does he snag the seat away from him and Ricciardo's not on the grid? Because I think this really can dictate what happens at Red Bull, AlphaTauri, which will be name changing, and the rest of the grid for next season.
Yeah, well, I think Ricciardo's lucky and unlucky in 2 different scenarios. So he's lucky that he's still got 9 races left on the season, so there's a good chance that he will be back, before the season's over. But the timing of it isn't great, because we just came back from the summer break. We're going to Monza next week, and then 2 weeks after is Singapore, and then Japan is right after that. So there's a lot of races in the next few weeks, and if Liam Lawson gets some seat time and he scores some points, then maybe Red Bull would be looking in a different direction, because Liam Lawson is a lot younger than both Ricciardo and Perez. But I'm going to be honest, I never even heard of Liam Lawson before this week.
Oh, really?
So I don't know what Red Bull thinks of him. But I think if everything goes to plan, Ricciardo will be back in that seat, and he'll probably be back for next year as well.
I think he was in F2, isn't it? Is there F2 driver? Silent, or professional?
I think he was in F2 up until recently, and then he got transferred to Super Formula because they couldn't make space for him in AlphaTauri. And he's been doing good in Super Formula as of late, so he became an option.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the timeline is. I think it's all dependent on if he's able to get recovered or not. Anywho, it's nice to have F1 back, and yeah. Monza's next week, or we got to wait another one? 2 weeks?
Next week.
Oh, okay.
F1's back.
Oh, nice. Alright, well, there you have it. There's that F1 section. Now, this one I might rant a little bit. This next one, I might be talking a little bit. So
Here we go.
Pause the podcast, get your popcorn, get your...
We're getting into the good stuff now.
Yeah, I'll be back in like 30 minutes or so. I'm gonna take a break. I'll be back and they'll still be talking. Just kidding.
We had our ice cream. We talked F1. Now we get into the real stuff. So we had another appeal, and I think we're gonna make it a tradition. Anytime there's a driver appeal, we're gonna talk about it on here. So. I participated in the appeal as a steward. Mr. Camden also was in the appeal as a steward. Reason I don't steward for Platinum, but I'll do the appeal since I'm not driving this season. So I was added to the appeal. Professional and silent, you guys were drivers, so you're obviously not able to be in the appeal. But I will, for those who don't know, let me read the initial Platinum class steward's decision from that. This was at Abu Dhabi, so this was round 3. So we're a little, it takes time to do these appeals. Let's see. Reading the steward's decision.
Yeah, it takes a long time, just like the real F1, right?
Yeah, well, they can go for months,
Yeah.
Imagine if we did that.
Alright, so Incident 7, description, Bats contact with Mebbe, 5-second time penalty and 1 penalty point to BatsPlus super license. On the exit of the corner, BatsPlus had right arrows for Mebbe, who was to his left. Per TCR Rule 1.3.3, he is officially defending and obligated to leave space. BatsPlus continued to position his car left until contact with Mebbe was made and forcing him outside of the track limits. Stewards determined this was a violation of Rule 1.3.3 for not leaving space for Mebbe. Mebbe got a 3-second time penalty from getting off the track. So this next statement says, Mebbe does not have a race director for his track limit warning, therefore stewards can't remove that warning. Per TCR Rule 7.4.1. So Bats then appealed. In this statement, the only rules that were mentioned was 1.3.3, which is defending and leaving space and not forcing someone off the track limit. So that's what's being mentioned here. BatsPlus did his appeal, and then we got a lot more nonsense for writing and rules and such. So we're gonna play it here. If I can share my screen here, let's see what we could do. Hold up.
Everybody hold tight now.
Let's see. Wait, why I can't do it now?
This might be in the quote intermission for the audience. Yeah. Come back in 5, right? 5 seconds. I mean, we got it playing now.
Yeah, but I gotta share my screen. I don't know how to do it for the audience here. Let's see.
All right, 5 more seconds.
Oh, there it is. Alright, so this is the incident. For those who didn't see, it's on YouTube. This is from the point of view of BatsPlus. Behind him in Ferrari is Mebbe. From this corner. And that was
wait, wait. That was the incident?
That was the incident.
Proceed.
You see Bats hit that curb there. I'll go into detail more, but yep, there's contact if you look at the rear left mirror, and that was that. So from this is from Mebbe's point of view now. See, Bats hits the curb, he kind of goes off track, and he does. Slight contact there. And you can see Silent. Who was that? That was you, Silent, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Oh man, rip.
Look at him there. Watch. Shrink!
Just go flying.
Yeah, that's my teammate right there. God, jeez. Oh, that's
that was
hilarious.
funny.
I was so surprised that I didn't just completely die.
I don't know if we could. Nah, I don't know. That's not gonna let me, but. Yeah, we saw it there. Anywho, now it's buffering. God damn it. Alright, so yeah, I wanted to rewind because Mebbe, there was contact right here. Mebbe goes off the track and gets that penalty, and I think that's why later on in the race he submits bats for that. So then let me read the appeal. So let me come back here. The stewards reviewed, and this was their appeal that was written up. So description, BatsPlus has appealed his penalty for contact with Mebbe during week 3. This was the ruling. Appeal upheld. Penalty remains. After multiple days of lengthy discussion between the TCR stewards, the final vote was 5-2 in favor of keeping the original Platinum Stewards penalty decision for BatsPlus contact with Mebbe at turn 15. This was not the 2/3 required per TCR Rule 7.7 to overturn the decision. Ultimately, the stewards discussed the following rules: 1.1, 1.3, 1.3.3, 1.4.2, and 1.7. A lot of rules. Lots of stuff to look up. The final decision and vote stemmed from whether there was equal blame for the contact clause between Mebbe and Bats. Multiple stewards did determine they felt there was adequate room left for Mebbe per Rule 1.3.3, but not all stewards agreed. The interpretation of space left and usable racing space per 1.3.3 and 1.4.2 was not unanimously agreed upon between the panel. The majority consensus was the violation stems from Rule 1.1, 1.3, and 1.7 having red arrows with a car side-by-side well before reaching turn 15. Bats racing line did not account for a car that was left to avoid contact. The ultimate contact cause was majority blame on BatsPlus and warranted a penalty. The stewards determined the space left per 1.3.3 was not enough to overturn the contact caused by Bats. BatsPlus will no longer have an appeal for the rest of the season. So I want to kind of go through this for some even other drivers that might not understand any of the rules and incidents. So I want to kind of go through a few of them. So there was a few rules that were mentioned. First was 1.1, which is just general clean racing. So clean racing is required at all times, which means that drivers need to avoid contact between cars on track. Incidents involving contact between two or more cars may be reviewed by the stewards. Stewards will determine which drivers are at fault for the contact and assign penalties appropriately. If the stewards determine that all involved drivers are equally at fault for the contact, the incident may be determined a racing incident. So that's our first one there. 1.3 was defending. So that was with the red arrows. So a driver is considered to be defending at the moment the first white indicator arrows for the car behind show on their screen. Only one defensive move is allowed. 1.3.3 was leaving space. So this is when a defending driver is defending from an overtaking driver in regards to leaving space. So a defending driver who has already made one defensive move to the inside line according to Rule 1.3 may move back towards the racing line before the next corner. However, one car's width space must be left to the following car behind. Now this one in my opinion doesn't even apply because that's not what happened. A defending driver who has already made one defensive move to the inside line, they can go back towards the racing line. So my example would be you're going down the straight Upper Rouge at Belgium and you're on the left side of the track and you have a car behind you and you're defending. You move right and that's your one defensive move. by the time you get down to the end of the straightaway, if the car is still behind you and you're still defending, you're allowed to go back left towards the racing line, but you must leave the cars with a space. So that is what that rule is particularly talking about. Bats never made one defensive move, and he never went back towards the racing line. Everything was left in this case. So this one I don't even think really applies to that, but it was mentioned. 1.4.2 just states what the track limits are. So it's basically 4 tires go outside of the white lines, and that would mean you would get a penalty. And we saw on Mebbe's on board that he got a penalty from the game when he went 4 tires outside of the white lines. So that just states what the track limits are there. The other one that was mentioned was 1.7. So anytime cars are side by side on track, it's the responsibility of each driver to leave a car's width of space within the track limits. So cars with a space within the track limits. And that's basically that. So those are the rules I mentioned. Those are the appeals. I just wanted to make sure everybody was all caught up. We saw the incident as well. Should I give you my consensus, or does anyone want to jump in? I rambled a lot right there.
I think you can start.
Okay.
Or maybe Cam did, because he was actually also in the...
I haven't really said any opinion. I really just kind of went through what was stated in the rules and read the rules, so and showed the footage. So I feel like everybody, if you didn't see, now has an idea of what happened. And now I guess we'll get into the into my opinion. Now we're gonna go on board with bats here. I do disagree with this call, and I think there's a couple different factors for it. Now, firstly, the first thing I noticed, Bats hits that curb, and he doesn't get a warning, and he might still be within track limits. Maybe that's why, but I thought he had left the track, and I think he might have, but maybe he didn't get a penalty. Anywho, I was disregarding any sort of re-entry to the track. I don't think that is what's being looked at, but I did look at that while looking at the incident. But you can see right here, if let's say he is in track, because he didn't get a warning, which I think he is in track, he's got a red arrow. Now, on this straight, obviously, every corner gets connected by a straightaway or some sort of a straightaway. This one's not your conventional straightaway. It's a curved. It's not directly straight, but also the racing line is also like diagonal, basically the entirety of it, because we're getting ready for what should be a flat right-hander. So it doesn't. Yes, it's a straightaway. It's not a DRS straightaway, but the same defending rules should really apply. But if you just look from here, and the red arrow with Mebbe, the rest of it, he's really just moving left to get ready for a flat right-hander. This wouldn't really be necessarily a defensive move, and I don't think he's trying to defend necessarily. He's just running through the corner left, and I think everything was done in one motion. It wasn't aggressive or late by any means, in my opinion, after looking at his telemetry. If you take your normal line through that corner, as you would, let's say, with no driver there, I think you can say that he'd be even more left. So I feel like he did try to leave space for Mebbe. If you look at the cars where Bama and Main Wayne were, see the left tires of Bama were on the left curb, and as well as Main Wayne. Bats is not there, and for him he can't really go much more right at this point because it's a flat right-hander. Any more right BatsPlus goes, then he can't take that corner flat out. And then what will happen is, from Mebbe's point of view, he'll try to go flat and he'll just run into the back of him, causing a collision. So at this point, when two drivers are trying to overtake each other, it's almost like they're going to battle, and you want the most ammunition on your side. BatsPlus is on the top of the hill in this situation, meaning he's dictating the corner. So what I mean by that is, number one, he's the defending driver. He's always been the driver ahead. If you look at the leaderboard, he was always 5th. In this situation, he never lost the position. So he's defending. So he's always been 5th. Number 2 is he's the defending driver, so he's never lost a position. He's still defending. Number 3 would be he's the inside car of the corner. So as the inside driver, you more or less dictate the corner. And number 4, he's also the majority ahead from Mebbe, who you can say from here, if this is the farthest Mebbe's got, is in the minority whether to space. Now, for me, I kind of think of significantly alongside of front wheels to front wheels, or a little bit more. This is more, I think, in the minority for Mebbe, rather, because his wing and front wheels are BatsPlus's rear wheels. Mebbe is the overtaking driver, and if you look at, I think we have a rule here as the overtaking driver. It's 1.2. While overtaking, is the responsibility of the overtaking driver to make a clean move within track limits. If the overtaking driver creates contact with another driver and or completes the overtake by going outside the track limits, they must give the position back. And failure to do so, blah blah blah. So with this, based off of how we define track limits, which is all 4 outside the white line, BatsPlus did give enough space to Mebbe. Even there, that was probably the most amount of time. The only reason Mebbe got out here was the contact kind of pushed him out. But Bats didn't push him off track because he left the cars with the space. And if you look at what Bama and Main Wayne's cars positioning was ahead, if you look back from at this point, let's see, you could see Bama's left tire is on the curbing ahead, and sometimes it's even more dramatized. So BatsPlus did leave the cars within track limits. So if there was track limits given, Mebbe's responsible to make the clean overtake. Now when they're going to battle, Mebbe is in the minority. He is the overtaking driver. He's going around the outside. So whenever you're trying to go around the outside of a corner, you're taking the risk, because the inside driver is the one who dictates the corner. So when you go around the outside, especially of a flat right-hander, that I've never seen someone try and overtake around the outside here, probably because it's never happened. And number 2, I mean, this is kind of a newly formed corner, so only a few years on this right-hander. He assumes the risk. So he got the risk. There was contact, there was space given, and the only reason he got that penalty was because Mebbe was because he went outside those limits. So obviously we couldn't remove that, but it doesn't mean Bats should get a penalty because Mebbe got a penalty. For here, this needs to be like a clear violation for Bats to receive a penalty. And a lot of the rules that were originally mentioned in the original appeal, which was only 1.3.3, which doesn't really even apply, because 1.3.3 I mentioned was when you like when you're defending once and then you go back towards the racing line. Bats didn't do that. That's like when you go down Belgium, as I explained a little bit earlier. And that's what was initially stated in that first incident, which the only rule violation was 1.3.3. But because we know what the track limits are, and 1.3.3 doesn't really apply to bats, then the appeal added more rules, basically. So now he violated more stuff. So it's 1.1, 1.3, all these other ones, 1.3.3, 1.4.2, 1.7. So for an incident to go for one, you would need to technically have 100% blame for bats. And as Mebbe, who was given space, trying to make an overtake here, I think was risky, and he was the only one who could back out of this corner. BatsPlus cannot back out of this corner in a flat right-hander. Why would he just give up the position to Mebbe? Mebbe's the one trying to overtake here. So there's no reason Bats should be lifting. Bats gave enough room. So I don't really know why Bats would have gotten a penalty, especially because you can see he did alter his line, because he is more right than he would have normally have been if you look at the cars ahead and every other lap through the racing line. So that's my opinion. I think it should be no further action, racing incident. I do think Mebbe's the one who submitted it. I don't think Mebbe should get a penalty from it. I think as the overtaking driver, he should have backed out. Doesn't mean I would give him a penalty, but that's a different situation. Mebbe's the one submitting, and I would say there's no incident really needed. And we did do another appeal, was it last week or 2 weeks ago now, with the Carson versus Whisper in Golden Class, and that was a racing incident because both drivers met at the same part of the track, and they were both in control of their cars. No one was completely losing control through the braking zone or through the cornering of the apex. Carson and Whisper were both equally at fault. We couldn't fully put blame on one person, and I would say the same thing. The slight bit of contact happened while there was plenty of room for Mebbe and Bats, and I think both drivers could have left a little bit more room. And I think if you look at the Carson Whisper incident, it was very much the same. So for that, I would say it would be a racing incident. And the last thing here is the stewarding. When you're talking so much and debating so much about whose fault it is, and there's a lot of debate, it's probably a racing incident. Because to give a penalty for causing a collision, it needs to be 100% you violated a rule, you caused the collision. And it should be almost without doubt that you should be able to point and say, yeah, that's your fault, you messed up, bud. In this scenario, there was a lot of discussion. It was 5-2 in the steward's appeal, which was only one converted over, and I was added. So for that, I think if there was that much discussion, it's probably a racing incident in my book. So I would say this is more 50-50 than 100% on Bats. So that is my full consensus here. I try to go as much in detail as possible, but I do think they got this one wrong.
Yeah, well, you definitely went into detail there. So yeah, first of all, like you said, it was a 5-2 vote, which means the majority of people said that there should have been a penalty there. And I'm going to kind of give my little 2 cents on this.
Yeah.
First of all, I really don't care, Seafreeze, what the design of the corner is, or how new the corner is, or whether or not people have gone too wide through there. Like, I don't care if it's a curved straight, or if the corner is a trapezoid, or if it's on a hill in Antarctica. Like, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so if we're gonna go into 1.1, which is the clean racing rule, and we're gonna describe it. Bats, he double steered to the left. The red arrows were there long before he made the contact and squeezed him off the course. So for me, it's pretty black and white, but I want you to kind of, so can you go to Mebbe's point of view for a second? Yep, and I just want you to play it, and I'll tell you when to stop. Okay, so right here, right there. So the difference between where we are right now and where the violation was made is that in the end, there was a lot of space to the left of Mebbe. Okay, so right here, they're side by side. It is a curved straight, yes, but Bats ran him off the track. You can say there was like 2 inches of pavement between Bats and Mebbe, but Bats went way farther to the left than he should have been. I don't care how the corner is set up. Mebbe has the right to make a move in this scenario. Bats went off the track. He went, hit the curbs, and Mebbe has the run on him. And if you can hit the resume button here, I mean, you can't tell me that he doesn't just push him off the track right there. Like, there was a lot of space to the right for Bats to, like, Mebbe does not have to let off in this scenario. He really doesn't. And I mean, it's clear as day. Look at the way that Bats is going. His car, as of there, is pointed to go off the track. It's pointed towards the curbs as they are about to enter the right-hander. He runs Mebbe off the racetrack, which is a violation of 1.1, hence a penalty. And that's why the majority of people agreed on that.
Now I see what you're saying, but according
wait, hold up. Silent says something.
Oh,
he's awake.
go ahead.
Yeah, there he is. Yeah, let's hear from him. I want to hear from this guy.
Now you're a driver. Now you had a good seat because you were right behind him.
Yeah, whatever happened after that. But I think there's 2 different schools of thought here. One is probably the more, I guess, racer-esque point of view from like Siegrist or myself or Professional, who probably would have backed out in this instance, only because we know what would have happened here. And that's the way he's looking at Mebbe is more of a, I'm forcing you to back out, and that's that. You're not going to do anything at all, and just you're being forced off, basically. But the other school of thought is the very literal approach to the rules and not taking the racing dynamics too heavily into account. And what I mean by that is, when you go back to the point of views, right? Any sane and logical person would have probably pulled out. But when you apply the rules to it at the same time, one can say, hey, you know what? He deserved to stay there. He deserved to have some space. And, yeah. I mean, some people don't think that you can't race through those corners. I think for me, it always comes back to the whole, hey, you know what? It takes 2 to tango, and if you had left enough space, you could have gone side by side there, and would have been an unorthodox move? Yes. But would it have been good for the stream and everything? Yeah, probably. So yeah, I think it just comes down to the philosophy of who's stewarding it, and the overall way that some people want to dictate how they go by racing. But yeah, like I said, for me, knowing how it unfolds and knowing like how you're going to apply the rule book, I probably would have backed out, because people wouldn't really encourage to race side by side there.
Yeah, now there's one final point I'll bring up, and then I think a lot of the viewpoints are up on the table, and then yeah, I'm interested to see what others would think about the incident. Let me try and share my screen again.
Alright, you got 30 seconds. I'm going to count down. You can tell me when to start.
Nah, we're good. Alright. So there was one more. So, based off of how we define track limits, which is in our rules, and also you can see even in this example, Mebbe only got a penalty when he left the track, which was all for outside the white lines. So, and that's how racing is in the game, in real life, when they get penalties, now that they really do enforce them nowadays in F1, as years back they really didn't. And also the game in real life, and then also obviously in TCR we have that in our rulebook, which I read earlier. But in this example, if this is the farthest bats went left, Mebbe is still, and can still, be within track limits. So there's no rule, we don't have a rule that says anything about squeezing a driver or giving him just the bare minimum. The bare minimum is to give a car's width of space. Now, within track limits. So if we define track limits as all four outside of the white lines, then all you would need to do is to give, my opinion, based off of all that, is to give the car's width of space within track limits, which is 2 tires within either on or within the white lines, which Mebbe could have been able to do. Now, the other example or gray area would be, well, what if this curb, because the curb is not part of the track, but we do race on it. If you pave it, or if you have a curb on it, racers will race on it. They'll come. I think there's a quote, somebody used to say that. If you pave it, they'll come. It sounds like a baseball quote, actually. I don't really know what I'm going on about. Anywho, if let's say the curb was replaced with grass, gravel, or a wall, you're not going to assume that driver would be running on it. And there was a penalty given last year between Beatom and Lawrence, and Beatom got a penalty. I'm going to play it here. This is on the final lap, and it did kind of cut away there, but you can see on the outside of this white line is the grass. Now, you're not going to assume a driver would drive on the grass, because we drive on curbs and pavement. So for this, a car's width was not given, and that's why Beatom got a penalty. Similar instance, and actually in real life, that I stated as well in my appeal, was the 2019 race between Leclerc and Hamilton through turns 4 and 5, the chicane, and there was also gravel and or grass on the outside there, and I don't know if Leclerc got a penalty, but he definitely got, I think, a black flag, or whatever, like a warning flag during the race. So that kind of sums up the difference between if it was a wall, grass, or gravel versus if it's curb or pavement. And I think it's kind of hard to say that he pushed Mebbe off when, like, a pushing, in my opinion, would be a total 20, like a 2016 Nico Rosberg at Austria turn, I guess technical turn 3 hairpin, when Rosberg just goes completely in and his car is all the way almost off track, and you really can't fit another car's width, and Hamilton was off the track at that point. He didn't really push anyone off because there was still room allowed.
He made contact, though.
Yeah, there was contact, and there is contact.
Which is the problem.
Yeah, the contact started here, and Mebbe is clearly within here, is my statement. And because of the contact, which was within track limits, clearly, and that's what caused Mebbe to, either his car got pointed out, or maybe he recorrected, because then obviously he got pushed there. Okay. So that's my viewpoint of when the initial contact was.
Yep, so we had actually another incident this past week in the silver class race, and it involves Kluka and Bulldog, and honestly, it's kind of a carbon copy of this, to where they were going into a fast corner. Kluka kind of did something similar to Bats, came across the nose of him, and they ended up going into the wall. And Kluka ended up getting 2 penalty points for that. And, I don't want to put hypotheticals out there, but if I'm telling you, like, that could have been the same thing, to where Mebbe would have ended up hooking Bats into the wall and they would have been out.
At the
They're
Netherlands.
lucky
What
that they
race is
didn't.
this? Netherlands or Abu Dhabi?
Yep, Netherlands for silver class.
Okay. Oh, I think I know which one you're talking about. Actually, let me see if I can find it real quick, and then we can move on. But it was Bulldog and who?
To point out, so after y'all are done with discussing this stuff, I have like a devil's advocate to,
Yeah, go
to
ahead.
play to
Yeah,
y'all.
say.
No, like I'll wait till you guys are done because I want to bring up a few points.
You know, I'm all done. I was just gonna look at this Bulldog incident if I could find it. It was Bulldog and who, Camden? I forget who.
Kluka. I don't know if you guys caught it on stream. You might have to go into the incident report and look at it from Bulldog's point of view.
I think I hit it pretty good, I believe. Oh yeah, I did. Oh, I remember this now.
Yep.
Let me see. I haven't seen this, so I'm gonna let me hold up now. Let me share it again. We're back on here. Oh, I'm getting good at this, guys. So you guys watching?
No, it's only taken over a year to get good.
I can share my screen and all. Look at this. All right, so this is me commentating. Hey, I'll be commentating today because by the time this is out, we'll be live 8:45 p.m. Eastern, Silver Class. So tune in tonight and
Gets
we'll
the
watch.
job done really easily, and this is gonna allow Kluka.
Oh no, he got hooked!
Kluka's out.
He got hooked.
Swish.
Quick. He got hooked.
Bulldog takes Kluka out, and he got. And this is gonna allow
Yeah. Oh.
the faster
Let me
tire.
see if I could get on board a
Gets
little.
the job done really easily. And
Now this one is and that's what you can see when I'm talking about the track limits. Like in this scenario, Bulldog really can't go any more left because there's grass. But also, you know, you'd have to look. I don't even know who got a penalty in this scenario, but I would.
Kluka got a penalty.
I was gonna say yeah, because it seemed like he kind of moved left, thinking he might have been clear because he's got to get ready for the right-hander. So he might have thought he was clear. So.
I mean, but you could say the same thing with Bats, though, to where you were saying that he had the position because he was the car in front, so he was obligated kind of make that move. It's the same thing, Siegrist.
No, because so for the defending and the overtaking driver in this case, if you look at where Bulldog is. I mean, he literally can't go anymore. I mean, if you really want to get picky, he could be on the white line. But again, we're not going to be assuming drivers race on the grass in this scenario, because we race on tarmac or curbs or in pavement. So I don't know if I can see where Kluka is here, but it seems like
done really easily.
From here, he is alongside. Bulldog is alongside Kluka. Now, he is in the minority. Now, I also don't, in my opinion, I do think Bulldog should be backing out for this corner because it's just a hard corner to go and try and overtake. Is he entitled to an overtake? Yeah, I mean, he could try it for sure. Is it the smartest? Probably not, because it didn't really go well. But if you look at the space given, Kluka then at the point of contact didn't give a car's width. And I think this actually even proves the point more, because when the contact happens,
like there's
that's the car's
barely
width.
a car's width, or like less than a car's width, like a car's width.
And you
compared to Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, and you
like
can't
Mebbe,
assume Bulldog could go left because of the grass. So
yeah.
that's kind of the maybe gray area in this would be what is outside of the white line. And I think for Bats' situation, if you look at the point of contact, which was here, they're well within. So what I always say in my opinions of racing is, if you're going down a straightaway of, let's say, Belgium, I use that as an example all the time. So if you're the defending driver on the left side of the track, which was on the racing line, and you're trying to defend, the defending driver, let's say, makes one move to the right, and the overtaking driver also goes right. So now the overtaking driver is on the right side of the defending driver, and they're both going right because that defending driver is making the defensive move. If point of contact happens from a car's width or more, I would say that it would be, assuming the defending driver doesn't make anything aggressive or turns aggressive, it would be more of the overtaking driver's fault, because the defending driver can make a defensive move and it's up to the overtaking driver to react and make the move, in my opinion. Now, this isn't a rule, like that's what the rule is, but that's my interpretation of racing. If the contact happens with the car's width, let's say that defending driver continues to move over right and squeezes the driver towards the end of the track, which there is grass on the outside of the track at Belgium there. If there was contact with a car's width of space or less, then it would be the defending driver's fault, in my opinion, because he needs to leave a car's width. So for this, contact happened, in my terms of what I consider racing, contact happened but well with a car's width plus in this scenario. So I would say that it would be either no further action or the overtaking driver's fault, because I feel like Bats' defense here was smooth and nothing late, nothing crazy, so to speak. Whereas the contact in this scenario with Kluka and Bulldog, I would say, because this contact happened within the car's width or less, that it would be the defending driver's fault. In this case, it's Kluka, because he was trying to squeeze Bulldog, but he didn't leave a car's width. So, you know, I think.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So that's my opinion of it. But.
Yeah. If Camden, you have a response, I'll be happy to hear it. But I want to kind of play devil's advocate and kind of bring up a few points, if that's okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You said that. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So I got three, maybe 4 points. First point is, in the silver class Dutch Grand Prix, I'm looking at the video here. The track limits is obviously different than the Abu Dhabi track limits. I mean, obviously, when Mebbe and Bats were fighting, Mebbe had a curb there to use the track limits. The track limits, when a curb is there, is not just a white line, it's actually the extension of the curb. So Mebbe had all the room to the left to go even more, or not more, but like right there, he's on that white line. His right tires are on the white line. Bats is given a half a car of space there. Now, before that contact happened, there was still space for Mebbe's right tires to be on the track, not past those white curbs. On the Zandvoort incident, that's a much different instance with the white lines, the track limits, the curves, whatever. So that's point one. So it's a completely different incident. You can't compare the two. It's like apples and oranges. Apples and oranges.
The job done
second
really
point
easily.
would be, and I'm going to reference the stewards' decisions. But looking at it, it says that on the initial ruling of Bats and Mebbe, only, and I want to stress only, TCR rule 1.3.3 was referenced for the initial penalty of Bats. In the appeal, ultimately the stewards discussed the following rules: 1.1, 1.3, 1.3.3, 1.4.2, and 1.7. The majority consensus must be the whiskey, with violation stems from TCR rule 1.1, 1.3, and 1.7. Why did the stewards in the appeal bring up all these extra rules when that wasn't even initially discussed and actually reasoned with in the posting of the initial appeal, or the initial incident of just 1.3.3? You can't just make up rules, or not make up rules, but bring in other rules for the appeal to justify
I have a
your
response
ruling.
to that, but yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Because so me and Camden both weren't on the initial appeal. We were both added as extra stewards. So at my initial appeal, I did add, because I didn't even look at the initial stuff. I didn't look at the initial report of what the I just did what I would do normally when looking at it. So I had my rule book here, and I looked at, I think I added 1.4, and I also brought up 1.7, and I think I brought up 1.3.3. So I brought up 3 additional rules before even looking at what the initial stewards did. But those were the 3 that I brought up in the conversation. Just to prove
why weren't those
know.
being discussed in the initial incident report and being listed as those rules discussed stewards in the initial decision? That's my problem with this whole thing, is that you can't just subtract or add TCR rules and when you're doing an appeal to justify your reasoning. To me, that's just you're bending the rule book. You're playing by gray rules. You're just doing it because of your emotions and your feeling at the time. You're not actually referencing the rule book, in my opinion. And that's where I think the Platinum appeal has gotten it completely wrong. Where actually the initial decision was actually completely wrong.
Yeah, I think possibly what could have happened is they might have saw a rule that he violated, and I think the initial one was 1.3.3, leaving space. But if you look at, and I said this before, if you actually read what the scenario it's referencing, this doesn't even apply. Because it says
because
a defending driver who has already made one defensive move to the inside line.
Which actually wasn't a defending move, because he's taking the racing line. He would have moved. If you look at all his footage from before, look at anybody else's footage, they take that line much more to the left before taking that right-hander. He actually left space for Mebbe to be, for Mebbe to have half his car on the curb and half his car on the track, which is still legal by track limits, per the game and per TCR. So I'm not sure where the track limits thing comes into play, why Bats was blamed for not leaving space, even though space was left. It's just, again, like the racing common sense comes into play, and as stewards, you have to take that into account. You can't just play 100% by the rule book, because if you do, half the decisions in current real F1 would be not what they actually were. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, in life, you make common sense decisions rather than going by the rule book 100% of the time. That's where I think Platinum stewards in general have gotten it wrong, unfortunately, too many times in recent times.
Yeah, now I will also just say that they could have possibly looked at one rule and said, oh, this was what was violated, without looking at other rules that may also apply. So that's where they could have went wrong initially, whoever the initial stewarding was. Whenever I look at an incident, I always look at what rules apply to this situation. Let me re-reference them and see what applies, what doesn't. So that's why I went and brought up all those extra rules, because that's what initially should have kind of been there. But I will say that if anyone's listening and wants to become a steward, we do need stewards. Mainly if there's anybody who is not a Platinum class driver but is of that caliber, we need those high-level drivers in Platinum as a steward. But obviously we can't steward our own class, so to speak. So yeah, there was that second point or your third point? That was the third point. Professional or second point?
Second and third, I guess.
Oh, okay.
And then Mebbe's just gotta. I mean, like, as a racing driver, like, I'm surprised that you're trying to go for a move on the outside, of a fast, flat corner. Like, I've never seen anybody overtake around the outside of that corner in Abu Dhabi in esports or TCR or any other league. So I'm surprised that he went for it. So there, in lies the common sense as a driver. Like, am I really gonna make this work, or is this just kind of like a false hope? And maybe just back out, live for another day, get a better run on the next straight or the DRS, and just overtake them. So, I get he had a massive pace advantage, and Bats made a mistake. You try to take advantage, but
I personally wouldn't have even submitted it. I feel like the only reason Mebbe submitted was because he got a 3-second time penalty, and I think
Correct,
he wanted
correct.
to submit it because they wanted to get Bats a penalty. So it might have made a difference at the end. I'm not too sure. But anywho, if let's say Mebbe didn't get a penalty there, or was able to get that penalty removed, I feel like he wouldn't have submitted it because nothing really happened from his end. He didn't get damage. He just fell right back in line. I feel like he only submitted it to try and get a better result at the end because he got a penalty. He was saying, "Oh, well, if Bats gets a penalty, I can jump him at the end, so let me submit it." And I think that's why he got submitted. And we weren't able to get that penalty removed because he didn't have the race director. But if he did, then we probably would just remove it and call it a day. But based off of this long discussion, in my eyes, if there's that much debate, it should be a racing incident.
If there's in
my opinion, that's how I look at it, though. If there's
that much
much
debate, yeah, then
it
we
has
need
to be
kind of
50-50, in my opinion.
yeah. I mean, like you kind of need to look at like
But-
what do we actually steward, what do we kind of let go and stuff. But I mean, like no matter how long we discuss this or it goes on, it's probably always going to have conflict. So it's probably best to just agree to disagree. It is what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
We've all given our opinions. We all have differing opinions, obviously, and I guess we live to drive another day.
Yeah. Now, just to finish and finalize this whole thing, we obviously always look at the rules and what's violated to give, a penalty out to. As I think Silent has mentioned, there's other rules that kind of are referenced, meaning it's all dependent on what each individual steward or driver's opinion of racing and racing knowledge is that could influence a penalty given or not. So that's where what we're trying to do to try and improve the stewarding system is to try and maybe define or go over some of that racing knowledge of different scenarios, and try and get that either on our stewarding side a little bit more in tune of maybe common scenarios, of maybe some other terminology to make sure that we kind of have a general sense of what's considered, I guess, good racing and clean racing. Because you could obviously just go by the rule, but then everybody has their own interpretation of what racing is. So you kind of need both in order to come up with something. So we're going to be looking behind the scenes to try and get some high caliber stewards added on all tiers. Just that, well, although we always look at that. And number two is trying to find a little bit more, give our stewards a lot more tools that they can use to make sure they go through the process and whatnot. Anywho, any of the other things, Camden, Silent, any final before we move on? I thought that was pretty good. We got into it, looked at every little details and stuff.
Yeah, I don't think I have much else to say. Like I said, I think the majority of the comments and the majority of the talk surrounding the appeal is mostly down to opinions on how the racing should unfold and how you want to dictate the your literal rule interpretation and how your personal influence goes. So I think it's going to be more down to eventually kind of buckling down and saying, okay, this is what the league wants, this is what the league stands for, and I think that's how we draw a better line.
Cool. Alright, well, another one I had, we'll move on here, and these next three are quite short, is I just wanted to say, what the hell happened in Platinum? Camden, I know you commentated it, but
You're asking me.
that ending, I've never seen an ending like that. Like, I've never seen an ending like that. Like, what happened?
I've never seen a race like that, honestly. It was just so crazy. All the safety cars, and then you have the two Haas's up there at the end because literally every front runner ended up getting into an incident. And then it turned out the winner of the race didn't win the race because he didn't use all three compounds. And Jose, after getting a 5-second time penalty, it gets his second ever win in the Platinum class. it's unbelievable. And I keep saying, this class gets more exciting every week, and I mean, I don't know how it's going to get better than that, but I'm sure it will, this week in France, but it was just crazy.
I mean, it was one of those races to where, I mean, you put a 3-tire compound race on Zandvoort with Platinum, especially, and it's not just with Platinum, but it's especially this season with what's gone on in the first 4 rounds. I mean, what more or what else did we expect? And I'm not saying that, the people on the grid tried to make it what it was, because that certainly wasn't the intent. I think it was just different compounds. You have, such, more grippier cars, more high downforce. People have all this grip and all this pace with their cars that they haven't had before, and they're fighting with people that they haven't fought with before, and they're like, ooh, I get to fight with Taz, I get to fight with Silent, I get to fight with Mebbe, and they're driving for their lives, and even if they're on super worn tires or this and that, and there's nothing, like, you are more than allowed to race whoever you want to at any given time. It's just up to you as a driver whether you want to concede because you're on a slower pace or a different tire strat, or if you want to fight. And I've been in the position of both, to where I've gracefully given up my position because I know I'm on a different strat and it's not worth my time to fight these people, or I'm in a position that I've made the decision to, I'm going to hold my position as tough as I can, and I don't care if I cause an incident, because I'm fighting for my position, and this is the best position I've been in races or seasons or ever. So I think that, combined with the tire compound, with the race layout, Zandvoort, that's what you got on Thursday. And unfortunately, we've seen much better racing. We've seen, not as great from Platinum. I think it's still early on. It's a new game. People just, need to up their standards, and this is what we got. So it was just a kind of a crazy race. We've seen those in real F1 before. We've seen it in other league races before as well. I think it's a race to kind of take it how it was, accept it, look at the decisions, move on, and just kind of move on from there. So I'm not particularly proud of how the race ended up, considering we drove literally half the laps under safety car, and it was not the most fun thing in the world. I still drive and show up because I'm loyal to TCR and I'm loyal to the league. I've been here since I think season 4, so it's been quite a while, and I can blow up as a driver, and that's, I think people got to understand is that you have a persona as a driver and a persona as a person. And I think in the moment in the race, you can be a driver, you can be, 007 professional, you can be Silent, you can be Siegrist, you can be Tom and TJ and whoever. But then, a day later or whatever, you're not that person, you're a different person completely. So I'm not saying it's okay and it's, completely ethically correct, but in the moment at that night, like if something just has not gone your way and you blow up, or just the race has not gone the way it's supposed to as Platinum Race and TCR, don't get mad at each other for being emotional and caring about the league, because that's what we all are here for. We care about the league. We want to race. We want to have good races, and if it doesn't happen, it's okay to be upset. And a day later, 2 days later, we can all come back as people and just reminisce and kind of make up for whatever happened and try to make it better for the next week, which I think we all try to do as a grid and as a league. So to answer your question, I'm not really sure what happened on Thursday. I'm still kind of asking myself that too. I'm watching my replay back and thinking, I drove honestly pretty well. I just was in the wrong place at the wrong time, maybe didn't have the outright pace as maybe some others did, but you try to put yourself in those positions to where you can take advantage of these situations, which I try to do on lap 22 or 21, and unfortunately I just got caught up in this multi-car incident, which wasn't my fault at all. And at the time I was extremely angry, and afterwards in Discord I kind of blew up on I think it was Gotney Weeb, which he did not deserve that at all, and we kind of PM'd each other and apologized, and I made up for that, and all that's in the past and fine. But in the moment, it's just you're at a loss of why does this stuff happen, and why can't you just have a clean race, or why can't people just race clean? So I'm hoping that everybody maybe takes a step back, maybe takes a deep breath, maybe just approaches the next few races with grace, and just maybe leaves a bit more space, a bit more margin with each other front to back, and not it's not a life or death situation. And I hope that's the mindset of more Platinum drivers to come, because I really, really want the season to kind of finish out strong.
Yeah.
So we've had a really, really rough first 5 races, and I don't think anybody is quite enjoying it to the extent that they would have hoped at the beginning of the game with so much promise.
Yeah, I think you said a lot of good things. I think that you guys have to communicate as drivers. Like you said, a lot of you guys have been racing each other for years and seasons. I mean, you guys know each other. You know what you guys are going to pull out of your racing book. You know the move that they're going to do before they do it. That's good racing when you have people you've been racing with for so long. Obviously, you have some new drivers too, and they get mixed in, and you have to start to learn them. But I think you guys got to communicate. I think the best way to do it is in a voice chat after the race. Get in a party and just talk some shit. Get it out, in the voice chat. We have the Discord voice chats for a reason. Get in one right after, and why keyboard warrior it for the rest of the night, and because get in there and show your displeasure, and nicely, don't go crazy, but talk it out and see what you both don't like, and then move forward and respect each other on the grid. I think the best way to do that is after the race, get in a party in the Discord voice chat, and if nothing happened, I still also think that should happen. And for not just Platinum, all the classes, I think you guys should take another 5-10 minutes and talk to each other, and say, oh, how'd your race go, Timmy? Oh, mine went good. How about yours, Jimmy? Oh, mine went well. Not too bad. I got, and then you go through it, and then this way you say, oh, all right, cool, and see you next week, and you respect each other a little bit more. But I really feel for Mebbe. But I don't know who I feel more bad for, Mebbe or Vamu. I was surely so shocked that Mebbe yet again threw a race win away. Like I didn't think he could up what he did at Australia last season, round 1, when me and Silent were going for the win, and I ultimately got it. And now he upped that one. And he upped it again, because he did it again. Because he would have won if he just finished, and he would have won with the penalty. He went off at, what's that? I don't even know. Turn 9. I don't even know what turn that is. But the right-hander, he went too far out and wide, got the curb, and his car was flat on the curb, and he went out into the gravel. But I was like, man, that's not a corner you need to be that aggressive in. That's a high risk corner. You got to take that a little less, because the risk through that corner is not worth it. And obviously he risked it, or he could have backed off a little bit through that corner, not go off so wide. This way he could keep the car on track. So it was definitely a mistake, and I feel bad for him. But then Vamu finished and won the race, his first race. But he got disqualified because he didn't use all the tire compounds. Now, I will say, it's not my job to inform every single driver. He is a new driver. We had an announcement out. He missed it. The announcement was out before he joined the Discord. But, it's tough, but I don't know, maybe he could have looked through the schedule or the announcements, or he saw some other people possibly talking about the strategy and what not. But so I feel bad for him too. And then Just Jose gets the win after all, and he got a win, which is his second win in the Platinum class. So, man, that would be a good short, Camden. I really think that one would do.
What? Because you said a lot there.
Everything. That all happened within, what, a lap and a half?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 laps maybe? A lap and a half, yeah.
I mean, look, like, I don't want to laugh at Mebbe, but you almost have to, because he's been in a lot of these scenarios the last couple of seasons. I think of Canada as well from last season, because he was up there competing for the win for a majority of that race, and then things kind of all collapsed there in the closing laps. And, you know, I think last week, when we got to like lap 30 and, you know, Forzan and Bama got together, B-Tom and Silent had their issues, when the dust all settled, everybody was all spread out, I kind of accepted the fact that Mebbe was going to win the race. Because I was thinking, oh man, like he's come so close so many times the past couple seasons. There's literally no way he's going to lose the race unless if we get a safety car.
Yeah.
So I wasn't even focusing on Meb. I was focusing on the battle in the midfield. I think at the time it was with a guy named Weeb. And then all of a sudden Charles was like, oh no, he's spun out. And I'm just like, why? Like, how could you do that, Mebbe? Like, come on, dude. It's frustrating. I want to see him win, but, you know, I don't know what else he needs to do.
I'm not laughing at him. I'm just, I mean, it's just a funny scenario. But, I mean, he's definitely capable of winning, and I feel bad because he should be winning. And that's a tough one to swallow. But, you know, like what Sir Charles always says, with Meb, you hold your breath.
Yeah.
And you have to. So hopefully he can reverse the script a little bit and get some of those more podiums and wins. But I think he still finished quite well. 4th, I think. And actually with the disqualification of Vimu, I think he finishes 3rd. I think
Main Wayne finished 3rd.
Oh, yeah.
Main Wayne finished
4th
ahead of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, his first podium, platinum, is Main Wayne.
Yeah.
So, congrats for him. I was going to add him in the group chat, but I forgot to. Yeah, he got his first podium. And, yeah, that was a pretty good race by him. I'm pretty impressed by him, especially what he did last season when he came up as a golden reserve. Got that start on the front row, and he was in that pack for a little while last season. And now coming on this game, he had a rough first few races, and then coming in to get that podium quite early could do really good for the motivation and momentum that he'll bring. So I'm excited to see what happens this week. But a couple more things to get through. We had a poll last week I put out based off some suggestions that we had from the Discord, and we did talk about those suggestions. We put out the poll, and we're going to show the poll here. I have not seen the poll until you guys right now. You ready?
More ready than I've ever been.
Drum roll, please. We had 32 responses. Alright. There we go. Now, I will say, these were just polls, and we're going to see how the results are, and then we'll see what changes we'll do. First one, 50-50. Split down the middle. Should ghosting be on or off for all tracks? And it was 50-50 on that one. Should ghosting be on or off for street/specific tracks? Ghosting on for street/specific tracks. Got the win 21-11. This one I was... Oh, it did get yes. Oh, alright. Very early on, a lot of people were like, no, let's not do one. I was like, people should just say yes. You know, let's do a non-points race simulation damage event. So that one got a yes. So 18 people said yes, so that's probably good enough to do. Maybe even stream on it, or maybe not streamed, but we'll do a simulation damage event. Should there be a penalty given to drivers who retire in the pits? Perhaps a penalty point. And no got the win here by almost 69%, which I do kind of agree with. What should the damage be set to? 53% said standard, then reduced at 34%, and then 12.5% for simulation.
It was probably Siegrist who said simulation.
Him and his 3 other accounts, I bet. What should the damage rate be set to? Standard was at 62.5, then reduced, then simulation. Should safety car be on or off? Pretty big, overwhelmingly on. what should the frequency of the safety car be set to? Reduced, and that's what we do run it on, reduced. But that's got 62.5%. Should red flags be on or off? On, got it by about 60 to 40. We have been having it on. Let's see what it should be reduced. Yeah, reduced one. 72 to 28 here, and we have been running it on reduced. We haven't seen a red flag yet. How about this? I'm not going to read them all right this second because we are running long, but I'll go through. These are some suggestions. Be very transparent. People can 2 penalty point to bats and silent. That's got to be Siegrist's comment.
Yeah, I wonder who that was right there.
And the All-Star race could be simmed image. That's an interesting one. That's a good place to maybe do it. I don't know. Extra point for driver of the day. Some pretty good ones here. I'll read through them later. I haven't really gone through, but I will scroll them through.
Wait, hold up. Go down to the bottom again. Because I saw a YouTube short with myself featured, actually, with the driver of the day, even though I DNF'd in Bahrain. So I would have gotten an extra point for DNFing at Bahrain, Camden. We're getting driver of the day. So
Yeah,
I agree with that one.
No, I think that just debunks the whole argument.
No. We don't want to listen to that.
Yeah, so that was a pretty cool poll. I think most things we already kind of ran. If you look at this was no, so we won't do that. The damage we've been running on standard and standard. Safety car's been on. It's been on reduced. Red flags have been on. They've also been on reduced. The only thing was been the ghosting. It looks like on for street circuits and specific tracks, and ghosting has kind of been 50-50 for on all. So we'll take this and we'll look at it, but we'll continue with see if there's any updates for this week. But I would suspect possibly ghosting be on for the rest of the season, based off of how 50-50 this was. Possibly, I don't know. We'll have to look at it. So those were the results. That was the first time looking at it, so that was pretty cool going through that. Last thing we'll get to is something a little more serious. We got to get back a serious face a little bit.
Okay. No laughing.
No laughing, Camden. Never see freeze. No laughing.
We're rough, yeah, sorry.
Oh, I'm laughing already. Oh, goddamn it.
Yeah, you're fired. You're fired.
Well, speaking of fired,
Oh wow.
we have terminated TJ's contract. I mean, we weren't getting paid for this, but he has been removed as a TCR official based off some of the things that he had said last week in the Platinum group chat. I'm not going to go and reiterate those words, but I just wanted to kind of mention and just give an update to those drivers and viewers to make sure we don't accept that kind of behavior as an official, or really even as a driver, and he did get penalized for it. And any more will probably be increased penalties, because we want it to be a nice environment in the Discord. So some things, when you're in a role, you represent that company per se. So in that, as an official, you represent TCR, and there's some things that people say or do that that you lose a role, and sometimes things are minor where you can apologize and fix it and move forward, and some others it's just really unacceptable, and it really shouldn't have happened in the first place, which is unfortunate because I like TJ and he was good official, but that was definitely uncalled for. So we don't tolerate that type of behavior, especially as an official. I mean, I think we should be set at a little bit different of a standard, even moderators too. And whenever you're representing a role, even a steward's role per se, or a commentator role, you have to be professional no pun intended, in that role. You have to be representing that role well. If you're a driver, you represent basically yourself, but if you're in a role, you represent, in this case, TCR. Yeah. So just wanted to let everybody know that we don't tolerate that sort of behavior, and even if he wasn't official, we still don't tolerate it. So please be mindful of our Discord etiquette. And with that being said, we are still looking for either help in the creative section, in the official section, moderators, or any other roles. You can, if you're in a Discord, check the inquiry tab, and there's some explanations of roles if you'd like to join the TCR team. And then if you look at the About Us page, there's also in the Discord, there's also some different roles that you can apply for. So if you're interested, you can you tune in there. But just wanted to give a quick update there in case you see the roles have been changed. So that is a little bit of the background on that. So yeah, unfortunate situation, but sometimes things happen, and and sometimes things happen in the moment, and things are said, but no matter who you are, you have to make sure you're capable of controlling the emotions somewhat. I think it could be a little bit different, I think, as like official to an official in more of a group chat, private, anything private, or in a private message or in a voice chat. Sometimes you get into arguments and whatnot, and those you kind of figure out. But when you're in a role as an official, and it's more in our group chats, which wasn't entirely public because it was a platinum group chat, it was still to our drivers, which in this case is our basically so-called customers. So if a manager said that to customers, and that was recorded and put on social media or something like that, that person would be fired. So in this case, it's kind of a similar situation if you look at that example. So yeah, so inquiry within. Any thoughts on that, or you don't have to? That was more my duty. Oh, no laughing.
Yeah, I was gonna say not really, but being in a position that I'm in at my my career, being in charge of a large large group of people trying to play music and learn music and this and that. I'm actually a middle school band director, for those that don't know. Teach 6th grade through 8th grade, so the lovely age of 11 years old to 14 years old. It's quite the age to teach. You deal with parents and students all the time, and other teachers and administration that you may not, agree with all the time, or may have some angry students, angry parents, and some frustrated parents here and there. Just have to put on a face and remember the job and position that you're in. Obviously, an F1 league and Discord is a completely different situation to, a real life job management position that you may be in. But at the same time, my biggest thing is respect. You got to show respect through a keyboard, through a computer, in person all the time, and we've all been guilty of that. I've been guilty of it myself. But at the end of the day, there's a line to not be crossed, and if you have to recognize that line to not cross, and unfortunately, some of us do cross that line, and you pay the consequences, and that's really all I have to say. So, just part of life and all that.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll learn from it for sure. Well, I think that was a nice episode, a little bit longer, but we got a lot of good stuff. So hopefully everybody enjoyed. There was a lot of good stuff there. Yeah, so huge thanks to our guests of Silent and Professional joining on the podcast. Thanks for joining once again. And we also had Camden and myself once again this week. This week for TCR is round 5 of 15 for the French Grand Prix. So that's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 8:45 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be live on our YouTube and Twitch, so come and tune in to some good racing. We have Silver Class, Golden Class, then Platinum Class on Thursday. And yeah, make sure to follow TCR on all socials and join the TCR Discord server where we are the most active. And until next week, thank you for listening.